I'm Dave in the new crib here. If you follow the channel, you'll recognize right away that things are different behind me. We've got a more dedicated space here, and you've probably seen some videos where you mentioned that we were moving over the last month or so. And we're getting settled in. We're not done yet. I got some new lights coming and stuff. I got this one new key light right here that's working really well. And the mixture of that with the natural light that's coming in here, it's so much better. The air system is good. We're going to have a good time in here. If you're just joining us for the first time, so glad you found us. And come on in, take a few minutes, check this video out, check a few others out, see if you're into it. Go ahead and subscribe. Got a Patreon channel that has another video lesson each week on it as well. Don't want to take up a lot of time with announcements and stuff, but just thanks for your patience. We're going to get on more of a regular schedule, back on the regular kind of pattern of posting and things on here. The move was a lot of work, but man, it's going to be nice. So, got a little accounting business here for you today. But don't worry, you don't owe any money. It's not that kind of accounting. What we're accounting for is the groove over this one chord. It's an A7. Let's just put that on for a second, just to kind of get warmed up. See how I brought my leg out here, right? Because I like to, I'm a toe tapper or a heel tapper also. Okay. So now in that intro, did you notice when I counted, I wasn't counting beats with my fingers. I was counting measures. 1, 2, measure, 3, and 4, and 1. So see, I'm counting 4 with the pulse, but I'm counting measures. Now, let's turn this off for just a second. So, why is that important? Well, the groove many times is not just a measure, right? But of course, it's a multiple of measures, or some, some sort of a wheel inside of a wheel type of thing, right? So mathematically speaking, we've got that 4 beats and there's a tempo. And sometimes, there's a difference of whether it's a swing beat or a shuffle or a real straight beat. Right, and those are all musical elements that are important that we could comment on as well and look at. But right now we're just looking at, whatever the feel is for you with this kind of funky one chord loop. Counting it in groups of 4 measures. And our phrasing takes on a more, the statement that we're making, as far as if we relate it to like our sentence composition and speaking, right? It's kind of, I present something, then I elaborate on it, and then I kind of close it out as sort of in a way that that it's finished, right? Or you're waiting for a reflection in the conversation. Does that make sense? Right? Here's what I'm saying, because it's kind of like this, and does that work? Right? So with your guitar, and if you've ever thought of it that way, you're kind of doing that, right? It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. All right? Hard to do that in 2 beats. It can be done, though. It's done all the time in different styles. In this exercise, though, we're really investing in that stretched out, that 4 times around, okay? So all that being said, let's put this back on. I'll have several minutes of this at the end for you all to jam with. Now, there's a bass fill and there's a drum fill every one. So listen to it until you catch that. 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, Okay, so real quick here. It's an A7 chord. It's just one chord. So A Mixolydian, that's that major scale with the flat 7. Okay, if you're not real familiar with that or you're just getting into that, great. Here's a little place to pause it. Get that A7 dialed in, A Mixolydian over that A7 chord, and then kind of take your mind off of that, right? Do it in segments if you just want to put together a couple of strings worth of. But work with that off to the side, right? To where you don't have to pay attention purely to the notes that you're playing. You're not looking at a diagram at that point, right? You've taken the 5 minutes to do that part of it and you've got it, your hand is doing it, right? And your ear knows it. This happens very quickly, especially if you're not involving your eyes in the diagram, because that, what happens then is that keeps consuming your attention and this other stuff doesn't happen as in the same way. There's a lot of individual differences having to do this, having related to this as well. And I realize that it's different styles of learning and things. But generally speaking, for those of us that are using eyesight to play, some folks are not. So obviously, some of what I just said there could still be relatable in some way, but already sort of ahead of it on that, right? So learn it, get it under your fingers, get it going, then put your attention back over to the groove. Now, I just mentioned Mixolydian, but when I played, I wasn't playing a scale of notes that were all in order, right? So what I was playing was the chord tones, specifically the root, major third, because it's a 7th chord. It's got a major triad with a flat 7. So I was playing the root, the major third, the 5th, and the flat 7 for A. I actually went down in the example. Root, flat 7, 5th, major third, okay? A, G, E, C sharp, and then A again, whether you're going up or down. So, again, there's just 4 notes there. Stop what you're doing, get those worked out, maybe in a couple different places. Right? Now, what I'm demonstrating right now doesn't really have phrasing, right? Tonally, it's okay if I just play those notes over this backing track. But see how it doesn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. It very quickly becomes like someone that's talking without pausing or inflection, right? So what I'm going to do first is hold each one of those chord tones for a whole measure. Now, wait for the groove to come around. Wait for a fill of the bass or the drums. you're playing rhythm. And 2, 4 and 3, then measure 4, back to the. Okay, now, like we all do, after a minute, I'll kind of, forget. I won't be counting as much. I won't be, as mindful of like, building as I was building up to it, right? And sort of start to let myself go. But what happens and what will happen for you is if you go through the different stages of this and spend time on it, be patient with it. And really, I might think, I'm not going to sit there and hold a note for a whole measure and count to 4. I don't need to do that. And I don't need to say it out loud because I don't like to say it out loud and people might hear me or something. Do it. Do all of that, right? Do yourself a favor and get into that. Get your toe, your whatever body part you got going, right? And speak the beats. 1, 2, and 4, and 2, and it's going to change everything, man. And if you're kind of just not really comfortable doing that, in the space that you're in, or maybe even just with yourself, try to really work on that. Try to really address that and open that up for yourself. It'll make a huge difference. So not talking about a lot of melodic stuff and scale work and chord theory and stuff here today, right? Hopefully that was a nice little routine just to get going. And I want to mention one more thing, is that when I went to the minor pentatonic or the blues scale stuff, I just kind of stayed in that same phrasing. But if you notice, after a while, I was able to combine the Mixolydian stuff with, minor pentatonic or blues scale type licks. But they were still kind of maintaining that shape, and I could still sense where that downbeat of that first measure of the groove was coming back around. Okay, I'm not going to do a bunch of demonstration of that, but if you watch this a couple times, it's all in there. And I really planned this one out. I actually made a little outline of like how I was going to present this, right, with the counting and the listening, and then using simple note sequences, and then kind of, letting yourself open up to that groove. We're going to do a few like this. I may even do a series that's going to be more of a product of this, getting into the groove, sort of thing. It's something that we talk about in private lessons all the time. It's so important. And it's one of the things that I think a lot of folks would benefit from having more direction with. Excuse me. I'll let you go. Here's some few minutes of this backing track to work out on this with. Appreciate all of you. Please subscribe if you haven't. Leave some comments. It helps the channel grow. It helps me, and you never know who you might meet on here. It's fun, right? And there's also information on the channel about our Facebook open mic page, where you can get on there and post yourself playing, the Patreon link, and all that stuff. All right. Appreciate you. Have a good one. Talk to you next time.